If you have been Googling how to learn a language forever, then you've probably heard the term comprehensible input. In fact, you've probably heard a lot of people saying that comprehensible input is the best or only way to learn a language that's actually effective. But what they're not always clear on is not only what comprehensible input is and who should actually be using it. So in this video, we're going to talk about every single thing that you need to know about comprehensible input, including what it is, who it's for, who it's not for, pros, cons, basically buckle in. I'm going to give you the full, entire, non-biased picture on whether or not you should be using comprehensible input to learn a language and how to do it. So first things first, what is comprehensible input? There are two words that make sense individually, but when you put them together like that, it's kind of confusing. Fortunately for us, comprehensible input is exactly what those two words sound like. It's basically input, so generally speaking, language that you are listening to that is comprehensible to you. So you basically understand the gist of what it's talking about and you can understand the basic idea. You might not understand all the individual words and phrases. Maybe there's some slang that you're not really familiar with, but you get it. You can understand it, you can follow along. In fact, comprehensible input works best when you don't understand 100%, but you want comprehensible to be just at your level enough so that you feel comfortable and you feel engaged, but also a little bit higher so you're learning things and you're challenging your brain. This could mean anything from watching YouTube videos in your target language, listening to music in your target language, listening to podcasts in your target language, reading books in your target language, basically anything that's in your target language, preferably with native speakers, because the idea is that you're building your ability to comprehend what you're inputting into your brain. And yes, native speakers are different than people who speak it non-natively. How is comprehensible input different from other strategies? For example, how is comprehensible input different from working with a tutor or having foreign language conversations? For one, comprehensible input is really loose, flexible, and unstructured. In fact, there's no structure at all. It's basically just finding what you're into and listening to somebody talk about it. Like if you are into true crime stories and finding native speaking true crime podcasts, just as an example. It's also highly engaging, which has its pros and cons because there's not going to be any vocab lists. There's not really going to be any grammar drills. It's just kind of throwing yourself into language and picking up the pieces as you go along. And I do want to clarify real quick the difference between an app and a strategy. So in this video, we're talking about the strategy of comprehensible input. There are apps that you can use in order to achieve the strategy of comprehensible input, but comprehensible input is not an app. There's no product. There's no resource that is the go-to for comprehensible input. It's an approach. It's a strategy. It's kind of like having conversations with native speakers. There are many apps that you can use to achieve that, but that's not an app. It's a strategy. Now that we've pinpointed what comprehensible input is, let's talk about what it's not. Specifically, I want to make it abundantly clear that comprehensible input is not how you build your ability to speak the language. Is it related? Will it help? Yes. However, you can listen to 10,000 hours of your target language and still not be able to say anything. Comprehensible input will build your ability to understand the language, which means it will help you to understand foreign language conversations, but it's not going to directly help you speak the language or participate in those conversations. So basically, if your focus is to speak, then comprehensible input can be a side quest, but don't make that your main goal. So how do we know if comprehensible input is for us? So like I said earlier, comprehensible input is insanely flexible. You can use it no matter what you're interested in. In fact, the more interests you have, the easier it could be to use. Because, for example, if you're interested in yoga, if you're interested in rock climbing, if you're interested in specific time periods in history, you can use those words to find comprehensible input and listen to people in the target language talk about those things or teach you how to do those things. It's insanely adaptable to any type of language learner and really engaging just because you can switch topics whenever you want. Comprehensible input also really easily fits into your daily routine. Because it's so flexible, because there's no strict schedule or strict directions, you can so easily listen to music on your commute or listen to it while you're working out. Anytime right now in your life that you listen to music or podcasts or YouTube videos, you can easily switch that into your target language. It just takes a couple clicks. And because it's so easy and flexible, you can easily put it into any passive time that you have in your life. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to replace all of your passive time with comprehensible input and you have to spend all of your time learning a language. That's not what I'm saying. But there are ample opportunities to insert comprehensible input into your life, no matter what your life looks like. Okay, so now that I've sung the praises of comprehensible input, let's talk about the cons. First con to know about comprehensible input is that it's going to be really frustrating if you're too beginner. Remember, comprehensible input is about things that you can comprehend, you can understand. If you're at too beginner of a stage and you can't understand anything, then comprehensible input isn't going to be possible for you because you can't find anything that you understand yet. You have to build up to it. The level that you need to be, it depends on you, depends on the language, depends on all sorts of different factors. But basically, you want to be able to understand the gist of the language. Another issue with comprehensible input for some language learners is that there is no structure whatsoever. There's no clear path. Like, if I want to get closer to understanding German, I have to listen to this video and take this course and learn these words and understand this slang. That's not how comprehensible input works. Because it's so flexible and so easily adaptable to any type of language learner, it's on the complete opposite spectrum of anything to do with structure. So if you need that structure, if you need that tangible black and white hand-holding in your language learning, comprehensible input is not going to be a primary strategy for you. And of course, super important to remember this about comprehensible input is that it's only for understanding, it's only for comprehending, which is an important part of learning a language. But unless all you want to do with a language is understand it, you don't want to speak it, then you're going to have to make sure that you do other things that aren't just comprehensible input. It's a one-trick pony. You can only use it to learn to understand language. And like I said, this does build up on your other skills. Like as you build your ability to understand a language, other things like speaking the language will be easier. However, it's not a magic pill and you're not going to be able to magically start speaking it when you've never spoken a language before and you've just been building your ability to understand. Don't use comprehensible input as a cop-out to not speak the language if that's what you really want to do. Which, by the way, if that's the thing that you find yourself doing, I do have a mini course to help with that. Link below in the description is called Mastering Conversation. I say this as somebody who has absolutely used things like comprehensible input to avoid speaking at all and then being like, why can't I speak Spanish? What's wrong with me? So at the end of the day, how do you know if comprehensible input is for you or if you should go do something else? For one, you need to have a base level of understanding of your target language. And just be like beginner level vocabulary, beginner level grammar. That's all you really need. And your understanding of the language will, of course, build as you continue with your comprehensible input. Comprehensible input is also excellent for you if you already spend a lot of time listening to YouTube videos, podcasts, music, movies. If you already find yourself doing that and you enjoy it and that's kind of how your brain functions, then comprehensible input is an easy peasy strategy to shift some of that time, divert some of that time to language learning. And of course, if your main goal right now is to build your ability to understand the language, comprehensible input, great. So if you've gotten this far in this video, let's talk about how to use comprehensible input effectively to learn a language. Now remember, the idea behind comprehensible input is that you want to be able to understand the idea of the content you're listening to, but you have to try a little, you got to push a little. There are words that you don't understand. There are maybe some grammatical structures that you're not totally familiar with. Maybe it's slightly different slang. Maybe there's an accent difference that you want to build up into your repertoire. It's got to be slightly above your current skill level because that's how you grow. And because you are intentionally trying to challenge yourself, don't aim for 100% comprehension. You're not going to understand every single thing, and that's okay. In fact, that's good. That means you're doing the strategy right. Now, it'll take some time, it'll take some consistency to see growth, but if you keep raising that bar 1% by 1% by 1%, eventually you're going to see a massive amount of progress. Of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't have language learning resources to help you achieve a strategy like comprehensible input. And of course, links below in the description for my reviews of said apps and resources. Now, the one resource that is generally known as a go-to for comprehensible input is Link. But anybody with much experience with Link knows that It's not great. It's not particularly, like, the platform itself kind of sucks. I mean, you have access to a lot of different types of content. If you enjoy the content, that's great. But the whole link system where you're supposed to like click the words and it saves the words into vocab and then you learn the, like, that platform itself is not great. And I definitely wouldn't say that it's worth the money. But if you want to use a link to find actual content that'll be beneficial to you, go for it. Now, if you're more interested in using something like YouTube to get your comprehensible input, there are resources, there are Chrome extensions that can help you achieve that. I have a whole video. I'll also link that down below in the description. I already have a video that compares the different Chrome extensions that you might want to use for comprehensible input. And that's things like language learning with YouTube or Netflix. There's LingoPie, which is also very similar to those, in that basically you're watching a video and you have the subtitles. You can turn on the English, turn off the English, turn on the target language, turn off the target language. You can translate the words like while you're watching them. You can save those words for later. There's all sorts of little tools and tricks that each one of these Chrome extensions does pretty well. I would really suggest you read my app reviews of those on my website, linked below. Freebies is another one that is pretty good and can be really engaging for you if that's what you're into. But these Chrome extensions, and honestly, Link is okay. Link is not great, but they're really good because most types of content creators use YouTube to host their content. So even if it's podcasts, people post their podcasts on YouTube. So if you want to use a Chrome extension on YouTube to build your listening comprehension with these podcasts, that's all you really need, you know? But in general, you don't even need any of these strategies. You can really keep it simple if that's what you want. If you just want to listen to music, just listen to music. That's fine. You just want to watch YouTube videos, just watch YouTube videos. You don't need an app. You don't need any of that. You can literally just listen and comprehend the input. Because I know, like, if you are a Kindle user, Kindle reader, I know that Kindle also has a lot of different options that you can use to, like, bookmark words and all sorts of stuff. Like, if you're a big reader and you want to use comprehensible input to improve your ability to read the target language, I know there are a lot of tools. I haven't done a whole deep dive on that, but it's worth looking into if that's more your thing. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, a lot of people will rave about comprehensible input, but I do want to pump the brakes on that a little bit because I don't know, comprehensible input is one of those things where people online get really, really, really weird about. Like, people get too intense. Like, people will really say that comprehensible input is the only effective way to learn a language. Anybody who says that is wrong. Comprehensible input is not the fastest or the only way to learn a language. There are many, many, many different options, and I would really, really highly suggest you stop focusing on what will get you there faster, but what you enjoy and what makes logical sense. I'm all about doing what makes logical sense. I don't enjoy comprehensible input if listening comprehension, reading comprehension are not at the top of your list, then it doesn't matter how effective comprehensible input is going to be for you. Don't even bother with it. Remember, no matter how many purists, comprehensible input purists there are, and no matter how loud they are, remember that language learning is a personal thing. It is a personal journey. Everybody learns languages for different reasons and has different emotions attached to it. Everybody needs different things. And so definitely don't be listening to too many strangers on the internet who tell you emphatically that there is a one way to do it. There are literally unlimited ways to do it. That's why I'm teaching you how to differentiate between them and decide which one will work best for you. Because I am over people saying that one way is the best way to learn a language. No, that's wrong. So if you are curious about comprehensible input and you want to know more about how to add it to your personal routine, your personal language learning strategy, my top suggestion is, of course, to check out my 3-month course, The Method. I help you figure out the best way for you to learn a language based on your goals, your interests, your personality, and none of what I think will work. It's all about what you want to work. And I can help you do that without wasting years and years of your time and your energy on the wrong stuff. Of course, you can find that link below in the description. Otherwise, let me know in the comments if you've tried comprehensible input and how it's worked for you or hasn't worked for you. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video all about how to learn languages every Wednesday. Bye.